So if you're taking our WordPress course, this video right after, what we just talked about was the top 8 plugins that I think that every new WordPress blog should install. And so it was kind of a long video, so we went back and we're going to talk specifically about each one. And in this one, the first one I'm going to be talking about is Jetpack. Jetpack by WordPress, because there's a lot of options to it, and I'm going to show you why it's kind of valuable and why it's important to have. Right, so what you do is simply you're going to install it just like any other plugin, right? You go to plugins, and then you're going to go add new, and you're just going to type in Jetpack, and then that should be enough. It should be the first option. It'll be called Jetpack by WordPress, and I believe it should be made by Automatic. Yeah, Automatic right there, because those are the same makers of WordPress, right? So pretty much, I talked about it before, but very quickly, the Jetpack, I guess, plugin, what it provides is it provides you a very similar service that the WordPress.com websites have, right? They have a lot of added functionality to their websites, and there's many different options for that, right? And so I guess the thing that with your self-hosted WordPress blog, one of the issues is that you lose that functionality. You use a lot of the functionality that the WordPress.com blogs or websites do have. And so just to talk very briefly about some of these is, for example, if you want to add custom CSS, right? One of the things that you have to do is you probably are going to have to go and change it actually in your styles.css file within your theme. So you're going to have to actually edit the theme files, right? So one thing that's good about Jetpack or WordPress.com websites, you're allowed to edit the CSS through you can think of it like a mini plugin. Single sign-on, it lets users log in with their WordPress.com account, so it just makes it a lot more simple. If they already have a WordPress.com account, they can log in or sign up and make comments, things like that, onto your website. WordPress.com stats. This is good just because it allows you to kind of see the stats very quickly and easily, but in my opinion, you have Google Analytics for that, and I'll show you how to actually set that up in the future. So it's good to have, but also not completely necessary. And so let's just scroll through some of these. I don't want to talk about all of them. Actually, yeah, let's just try to go as many as we can. So the Beautiful Math, what it does, it uses this. LaTeX is a nice like software language that allows you to create math equations, graphs, things like that, or just formatting math equations or text in a much nicer, more elegant way. So it has that integration in it. Carousel allows you to have an actual carousel image gallery. That's very cool. Contact form, you can imagine what that is. Custom CSS, we just mentioned that. Enhanced distribution. So one thing that this does is it shares your public posts and comments to search engines. So that's just a beneficial overall for you, simply because it allows you to, how do you say it, just get your name out there a little bit better, a little bit easier. WordPress, the Jetpack functionality or Jetpack tool allows that to just be a little bit simpler. Extra sidebars, you can imagine what that is. It allows you to have additional sidebars that you may not have had already. So it just has different extra sidebar widgets, different things that you may be able to, you can find all of these, for example, add an image. Well, you can do that simply with just a text widget. It just makes it a little bit easier. Twitter streams, you also have widgets for that as well. So, but it just makes life a little bit easier. Google Plus profile, so it allows you to set up, the actual Google Plus profile, like Google authorship, things like that. In the past, you would see actually your image of the Google author image next to the post. Google got rid of that, but you never know. They might bring it back. They experiment with a lot of different things. So that's very nice because it just allows it to be much easier. Gravatar hover cards. So it allows kind of little pop-up cards over the comments. So all these are, as you can see, kind of just add-on functionality. I'm not going to talk about every single Jetpack comments. This is one that I do like, is that readers can comment with WordPress.com. They can comment with Twitter, Facebook, or Google Plus accounts. So the benefit of this is that you can imagine users who, for example, we'll look at our current comment system. So I'm logged in right now, so that's why it's going to show up differently. But what it normally has is your name, your email, and an optional website, and then a comment, right? So they have to fill out the name of the email if we specify that, and generally you would want them to specify that. And the benefit of having this Jetpack of they can just log in automatically is, for example, like right now, if I'm already logged into the website, right? If you have users that are already pre-logged into the website, chances are they're going to be a lot more prone to adding a comment. Once you have to add in a website, your name, it can be quite tedious. It doesn't take that much effort, but it can still be tedious and distract from them actually adding comments. So having this Jetpack comments is potentially very beneficial. As well as many of these. Okay, so they have the likes one. I kind of like that one as well. It gives visitors a way to like a post, and I believe it also shows up on the WordPress.com profile if that's what they're using. There's many other ones. Notifications, a better search, publicize, so it shares your new posts on social media networks automatically. In another video, I actually would talk about a plugin called Next Scripts, I believe, and so it does the same functionality. So as you can see, a lot of these functions that are built into this Jetpack are all available through other plugins or other services, and so that's why people have some, they have some opinions on the Jetpack service, because I will tell you this, it does slow down your website. It does slow down your website because you can imagine if there's so much functionality, there's certain plugins that are quite heavy and will definitely decrease the load time. So in my opinion, what I would say is that that's when we're going to go into the actual settings and we're going to pick and choose, right? We're going to pick and choose which ones we may want, which ones we don't want to, what we should leave out, right? And it depends on the user, depends on what you want. And all you're going to do, for example, let's say, I personally kind of like that Jetpack comments. And let's say I want to also just have the sharing functionality and the publicized functionality easier, make them have an easier time to do that, right? And if say those were the only ones that I needed and that's all I should add, activate it and click apply. And that's something to mention about any plugin in general, is that if you can do without it, I guess you could say, if you don't need it, don't install it, just because the more that you have, the worse it'll be, I guess you could say, simply because not only will it make things more complex, but it'll also slow down your website, right? You always have to think about performance of your website ultimately. Once you keep adding more and more plugins, it's whether you come to the question of, do I really need it or can I live without it, right? And probably I could live without most of these because there's other plugins that can do the same job, if not better than the Jetpack plugin. But it's simply the reason why I suggest the Jetpack plugin is because, especially for when you're just starting out, it provides so much functionality that you can just, as simple as that, if you wanted to add the Jetpack comments, all you had to do is activate it and then configure it, right? If you wanted to add infinite scroll, if you want to add Gravatar hover cards, Google Plus profile, it can do all of that, right? So that's why, in my opinion, the Jetpack plugin is especially very beneficial for if you're just starting off. Later down the line, you'll probably find that, for example, me, I don't actually use the Jetpack plugin anymore. But when I was first starting off, I found it so useful. I found it so beneficial for my website and for adding these functionalities that I couldn't add in the beginning, right? So it's kind of you got to weigh your options of what are you looking for in a plugin. And I think that when you're just starting off, the Jetpack plugin is exactly what you're looking for, because it has a lot of functionality built into one little thing that has a very easy to use interface, right? And as you can see, there weren't many options to change, to configure, and that's going to be the same for most of these other Jetpack capabilities, right? It won't have all that much options, which is a good thing, right? It's good and bad that you have options, right? When you have too much options, it makes things too confusing. When you have too few options, it's much more simpler, but sometimes you want that added flexibility, right? So there's definitely pros and cons to everything that we install, everything that I will show you, right? And let's see if anything will show up. Most of those things were in the back end, right? The publicized things like that. But we'll see if anything actually did show up. And so yeah, this leave a reply, this is a new system, right? Because I'm already logged in, right? Now I can just leave a reply, and you can see how that could be much easier, right? If somebody was already logged into WordPress.com, this could be very beneficial for them, right? This could be very easy. I can just easily type a comment like, "Oh, that was so easy," right? Versus if you didn't have this and they had to log in, they probably wouldn't even